गतं किं गम्यमानं किम् agataṁ किं vikalpyate adṛśyamāna ārambhe gamanasyaiva sarvathā.
Gataṁ kim gamyamānaṁ kim agataṁ kim vikalpyate adṛśyamāna ārambhe gamanasyaiva sarvathā. MMK chapter 2 verse 14. How is the already visited? How is the now being visited? And how is the not yet visited conceived, when the start of going itself is nowhere to be seen? So I've already sort of commented on this verse in the commentary to the previous verse. So if I go from the English, how is kim. Kim is just like a question mark. It marks a question. Could be how or what. Gataṁ. Gataṁ means gone. Gone to. Gone. Past. Already visited. It means the past. Gataṁ kim. How is the already visited? Gamyamānaṁ kim. How is the now being visited? Agataṁ kim. How is the not yet visited? Vikalpyate, third person singular passive of I'm not even sure how you pronounce it. It's the active causative is vikalpyate. It means to form, to fashion, to contrive. But this is the passive, vikalpyate. So it means is conjectured, is supposed, is imagined, is conceived. So how is the already visited? How is the now being visited? And how is the not yet visited conceived? So in other words, how are the past, present and the future conceived when adṛśyamāna ārambhe, so they're locative absolute. So when ārambhe is the start and adṛśyamāna is not being seen. So the verbal root is drish, to see. Adṛśyamāna, like gamyamāna, means now being seen. Gamyamāna means now being visited, now being gone to. Adṛśyamāna means now being seen. Adṛśyamāna, now not being seen. And so adṛśyamāna, locative, with before ārambhe, the e goes to an a, so it's adṛśyamāna ārambhe. The start not being seen of going. So gamanasya, of going, of the act of going. And then that's emphasized with eva, so the very act of going. So of going itself. So gamanasyaiva means of going, really it's suggesting of non-empty going. And then sarvathā, sarva means all, every. So sarvathā means on every side, everywhere. So with the negative of adṛśyamāna, adṛśyamāne sarvathā is nowhere to be seen, or it is not being seen everywhere. So I translated it is nowhere to be seen. When the start of going itself is nowhere to be seen, adṛśyamāna ārambhe,
gamanasyaiva sarvathā. So gamanasyaiva again is gamanasya, of going, eva emphatic. Gamanasyaiva, of going itself. So the start of going itself is not seen. Adṛśyamāna ārambhe gamanasyaiva sarvathā, everywhere. Adṛśyamāna ārambhe gamanasyaiva sarvathā. When the start of going itself is nowhere to be seen. So again, as just clarified in the previous verse, going itself as a separate act of going is not found. The start of going itself is not found anywhere, because going is empty, and what's empty does not have a start. Or if we conceive of going as a non-empty, a going itself, an act, a separate act of going, then as a non-empty thing, it wouldn't be able to start, because non-empty things lack any sort of power of generation. So what that's doing then is calling into question not only the past and the future, which it's a cliche in Buddhist circles to say that the past and the future don't exist, but he's also calling into question gamyamānaṁ, the now being visited. Insofar as the now being visited is a function of visiting, a function of going, he's asking how the hell do we get our heads around that? If the present is something which is going on, but going hasn't got a start, how do we get our heads around that? How do we conceive of the now being visited? So the verse is really asking us to think about time and action. My Zen teacher Nishijima Sensei used to say, our life is just action. Our life is just action. So we conceive that we have this discrete amount of time, our life, in which there is action. But if we conceive of those as non-empty things, passing time in which there are actions, those habitual conceptions of action and time are called into question by this verse. So again, it's a forerunner of the ultimate conclusion of MMK, sarvathā prahanaya, which is in the direction of abandoning, prahanaya, dative, of prahana, abandonment. In the direction of abandoning sarvathā, all views. I started off just an hour ago when I was commenting on verse 13, talking about idealism versus materialism in the Cold War. I didn't get to the end of my thread. So I was caused to think about this again, thanks to Jordan Peterson, because when I read Jordan Peterson's account of his struggle, he had the same struggle really in the 80s that I was faced with. I was faced with it. Jordan Peterson sort of he realised off his own steam that the big conflict was framed as being between two ideologies, that the free world represented by America versus Soviet communism. And Nishijima Sensei, for me, framed it in terms of the idealism. America stood for idealism versus the materialism of the Soviet bloc. And the solution to that koan for Nishijima Sensei was the philosophy of action. So that idealism was false, materialism was false, and our task was to clarify the philosophy of action and thereby save the world. It made sense to me on the basis of the fact that at university I'd studied two approaches, which was the goals approach to organisational effectiveness and the systems approach. And the thing of idealism versus materialism seemed to touch on that. Now to me, the goal systems thing, I would see it in terms of goals are empty of themselves, but full of systems, and the systems approach is empty of itself, but full of goals. The goals are meaningless without systems, and systems are meaningless without goals. So emptiness, I would see it now, emptiness solves the problem of goals versus systems. They're dependent on each other, goals and systems. So after 40 years, I feel like the big koan that I struggled with on my own steam when I was at university, goals versus systems, emptiness answers that. But the koan which Nishijima Sensei posed me, and he thought he understood it in terms of American idealism versus Soviet materialism, and the answer was the Buddha's philosophy of action. I'd rather see Jordan Peterson solved it better, because Jordan Peterson saw it. The starting point was that two ideologies were facing off against each other. But the deeper Jordan Peterson went into it, he realised, that Marxism is an ideology. Communism is a totalitarian ideology. But what the America after the Second World War stood for was not an ideology. And he explains this beautifully with reference to the Pinocchio story, especially the Disney version of Pinocchio, which was being produced as the Second World War came to an end. And it's an archetypal hero story. So Pinocchio stands for the individual, and it's the archetypal hero journey of the individual, following the instruction of the Blue Fairy to be brave, be truthful, and be unselfish. And so Jordan Peterson was suggesting that America after the Second World War stood not for an ideology, but for that true effort of individuals to be brave and to be truthful as individuals, and then to be unselfish, not because an ideology was telling you that individuality was to be crushed in favour of the totalitarian state, but because you chose voluntarily to be unselfish. So that's exactly what the Buddha is talking about with mindfulness of breathing. That you are selfish, you're brave enough to stop trying to be right and to let your breathing just be as it is, to observe what's really going on. And the truthfulness is the whole body being full of the truth, being full of direction, being full of the true direction, which is up. So to be brave and to be truthful is the whole point of, in the Buddha's words, sabakaya patisamvedi asasi sami. I will breathe in, being aware of my whole body. To be aware of your whole body requires bravery and truthfulness, just as the Blue Fairy recommended Pinocchio. But then the next stage after that is unselfishness. And unselfishness is what the Buddha says, pasambayam kaya sankara nasasi sami. I will breathe in, causing the samskara of a body to cease. That is unselfishness. And what it means is you get the hell up and do something useful. Or in Jordan Peterson's terms, you pick up your damn cross and carry it up the hill. You accept as heavy a burden as you can manage, and you make a meaningful effort to struggle with it up the damn hill. And that is what the Buddha means when he says, causing the samskara of a body to cease, I will breathe in. That's what it means, because the samskara of a body is selfishness. It's being worried about your own miserly skin. So the middle way is what America was on after the Second World War. It was on the middle way, which is selfishness, which is, in other words, bravery and truthfulness, getting to grips with yourself in order to drop off body and mind. That's what the middle way is. So America after the Second World War was on the middle way. Now the question is now, has America lost its mojo? So is America still upholding the principle of a bravery and truthfulness leading to unselfishness? Or has America lost its way? One of the, again, I trying to make sense of these things, I find it very helpful to look at what people who are active in the markets make of what's going on, because those guys also, they tend to be not ideological. The ideological ones tend to lose a lot of money, whereas the ones that make a lot of money are very open-minded. They're very quick to abandon a position if it's not working out for them. So one of the people, one of the thinkers who those like hedge fund managers and investment professionals, people are thinking, what the hell is going on? One of the people they turn to is Neil Howe, who wrote a book with Strauss and Howe wrote a book called The Fourth Turning. And so Neil Howe, he now works for a hedge, not a hedge fund, but a research institution called Hedgeye, run by Keith McCulloch, whose stuff I find interesting. And so Neil Howe expects that we're now going into what he calls a fourth turning. And I've read that he thinks the fourth turning will be, at the centre of it will be the interest that millennials have in mindfulness. But I would rather suggest that it's not so much mindfulness as emptiness that will be central to whatever resolution there is to the conflict which we're now headed for. Anyway, I'm digressing somewhat. Gataṁ kim gamyamānaṁ kim agataṁ kim vikalpyate adṛśyamāna ārambhe gamanasyaiva sarvathā. How is the already visited? How is the now being visited? And how is the not yet visited conceived? When the start of going itself is nowhere to be seen. So the point I'm making in relation to this verse is that the now being visited, gamyamānaṁ, that the mindfulness brigade are very much focused on, not the past, not the future, here and now, being mindful of your action here and now. There's more to it, there's more to the Buddha's teaching than what those people think. Because the here and now is not a non-empty thing. Time doesn't necessarily exist. And action here and now, action also is not a non-empty thing. So mindfulness is not the answer in itself. Mindfulness is part of a noble eightfold path. It's one branch of the noble eightfold path. But it's necessary to deepen our understanding of the Buddha's teaching as a whole, all of which is connected with emptiness. Again, it's to do with abandoning all views. The most dangerous people, I think, are not right-wing ideologues of the far right. They're the left-wing ideologues, the neo-Marxists, the compassionate lot, because they think they're right. The people on the far right sort of know they're wrong, and there's a kind of possibility of redemption in that. So last year I kept seeing on Facebook all my Zen friends, taking sides against Donald Trump, as if Hillary Clinton was somehow better, when in 2016 when the American elections were going on. It was like the trendy, compassionate thing was to be against Trump and for Clinton. But I just thought, how can you think of yourself as being a follower of the Buddha's teaching when you're taking sides with the left against the right? It's vanity, really, because you love to virtue signal to each other about how compassionate you are, while you're just part of the movement that's leading us all into deeper and deeper shit. Compassion without wisdom is absolutely disastrous. On that cheerful note,
gataṁ kim gamyamānaṁ kim agataṁ kim vikalpyate adṛśyamāna ārambhe gamanasyaiva sarvathā.